One of the most commonly used panels in Sure Cuts a Lot 2 is the Tools panel. Now let me show you all the different things that you can do with the Tools panel. Let's start with some of the basic things that you can do with the Tools panel. The most common tool that you're going to use is the Selection tool, and this allows you to select and manipulate objects that you have on your mat. Now let me show you how we do that. I'm going to go ahead and click on this tool, and I'm going to go ahead and add the star. Okay, now you'll notice that when I have the Selection tool selected, I can click on this object, basically anywhere on this object, and I can manipulate it. I can move it, I can rotate it, I can resize it, and so on and so forth. Now if I have any other tool selected, like this tool here, the hand tool, I can't click on it. I cannot highlight this object. Same goes for the zoom out tool and the zoom in tool. None of these tools will let me do what the Selection tool does, okay? The Selection tool is definitely the most commonly used tool, and you'll be using it for the majority of the work that you do in Sure Cuts a Lot. So take a look at this. When I highlight this object using the Selection tool, the Properties panel will display all these different things that you can do with that object. Now we're not going to talk about it in this video, but we have an entire video dedicated to the Properties panel. Okay, so let's say that we want to zoom in on this so we can get a better look at the star. Well, we can use the zoom in tool in the tools panel here. We click on it, and you'll notice that the cursor turns into a magnifying glass with a plus sign on it. Okay, we can go ahead and click, and you'll notice that we're getting closer and closer to our object. Okay, now rather than having to scroll down and up using the scroll bar here and here, if you go over to your tools panel here and click on the hand tool, you can just go ahead and click and drag and hold the mat and move it in any direction that you want. Okay, this makes it a lot easier to navigate the mat. Okay, so we can click on the zoom out tool, and we'll zoom out here a little bit. And we can grab the hand tool and move it around again. Okay, so you get the idea. The zoom in tool will help you zoom in, the zoom out tool will help you zoom out, and the hand tool allows you to navigate around the mat. Okay, now if at any time you want to be able to use the hand tool while you have the Selection tool highlighted, all you have to do is hold down the space key on your keyboard, and you'll notice that your cursor, the Selection tool, turns into the hand tool. As long as you keep that space bar held down, you can go ahead and click and drag it around just as if you had this tool selected, okay? So right now I have the Selection tool selected. I'm going to hold down the space bar, and you see that it turns into the hand, and then I can take and move it around. Or as an alternative, you can click here and you don't have to hold the space bar, and you can move it around just the same. So this is just another way of doing the same thing without having to click between these two. So you can leave it on the Selection tool at all times, and if you ever need the hand tool, all you do is hold down the space bar. Okay, there you go. Okay, so I'm going to bring up a new mat or a new project by clicking there, and I don't want to save my changes. Okay, I'm going to grab my zoom out tool, and I'm going to zoom out so you can see the entire mat. Okay, now the next tool that I'm going to select from the tools panel is the draw tool. The draw tool allows you to draw your own shapes on your mat, and this includes lines, otherwise known as open paths. Okay, the first thing I want to show you with the draw tool is how to create score lines. Okay, first I'm going to grab my Selection tool, and I'm going to click on this square here. Okay, and this is basically going to be like a base for a card of some sort. Okay, I'm going to grab the draw tool, and I'm just going to click here. Okay, there's my first node, and I'm going to drag down. As you can see, you've got a straight line, and depending on where I click next is where that line will end. Okay, so I'll take it down to about here. Okay, now I'm just going to go and click on my Selection tool. Okay, so I've got a straight line here. Okay, so I'm going to highlight the card base and go to Object and click Lock, just so that the card base doesn't get in the way. Okay, now I'm going to click and highlight this line here. Okay, now you'll notice what I can do under Appearance and Line Style. I can change the line style to any of these line styles here. Okay, now this is a solid line, but this here you'll notice is a perforated line. Now this one's more dotted. I would use this one more for scoring. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and let's go ahead and zoom in and take a look here. I'm going to grab my hand tool. Okay, and there you go. You can see the dotted line there. There it is. Okay, so if you find that that long line that's more of a perforation doesn't work very well as a score line or has too many cuts, what you can do is grab the draw tool and just make your own score lines without having to draw an entire line. Okay, so we'll go ahead and click to make our first node, and here's the second node. We'll click here, and then we'll hit escape on our keyboard. Okay, so there's our first one. Okay, now we can make another one. We'll go down here, click, and we'll click again and hit escape. Now we've got two, and you can do one of two things. You can either copy and paste this, copy and paste and move that down, or you can just go ahead and continue drawing another one here. Click, drag it down to create the second node, click again, and then hit escape to let it know that all you want is a line. Okay, so there you go. So there's your score lines. Okay. Now, in addition to that, instead of just drawing straight lines, you can continue to join even more nodes to create squares. Okay, look at that. We've got a square, we can make triangles, and obviously I'm just showing you basic shapes. You can make whatever shape you want. I'm going to clear off my mat here, get a fresh mat. I'm going to grab the draw tool, and now check this out. You can click, and then click again, and if you click and hold, look what we can do. We can create a curved line, okay? So this could be good for drawing shapes with curved elements to them, okay? So we'll click there, okay, and we can close the path here by clicking on the first node. That's basically telling it we're done with this shape, okay? So there you got that. And I'm not an artist by any means, so I'm not going to show you how to make a Mona Lisa using the draw tool, but you get the idea here. So in addition to making straight lines by connecting two nodes and hitting escape, you can also create closed paths that have as many nodes as you'd like. Okay, so what I mean by that is you can make triangles with 3 nodes. Okay, and clicking on the first node basically closes the path. So if you look at this as the first point in our path, the second point in our path, the third point in our path, and now we're closing the path, okay? So there you go, you've got yourself a triangle. And it doesn't end there. You can make your object as simple or as intricate as you'd like using as many or as little points or nodes as you'd like. Now, in addition to using the draw tool for freehand drawing on your mat, you can also use it to manipulate nodes on any shape on your mat. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and clear off this mat, and I'm going to open up the Fall Shapes library here, and I'm going to click on this football helmet. Okay, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, place it on my mat here, go ahead and center it. Okay, and if I want to absolutely center it, I can click here on this horizontal align button. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and deselect my helmet, and I'm going to grab my draw tool, okay, and I'm going to click back here on the mat, and just take your draw tool and hover it over one of the points here, okay, and there you go. You can see all the nodes that make up this helmet. Now what you can do is if you take your draw tool and run it over one of the lines, you'll notice that it turns into a plus sign. Okay, so what this plus sign means is that when you click here, you're going to add another node to an existing path. Okay, so if I click, there you go. You'll notice we have another node here. Adding a node does not manipulate the actual shape, okay, but subtracting a node can. Now let me show you what I mean. If you take your draw tool and hover it over an existing node, you'll notice that it turns into a minus sign. Okay, I can go ahead and click, and now I've removed that node. Okay, now I can go up here and remove this node as well. And you'll notice that what that does is it starts to shrink that path, okay, because these nodes are now trying to find the shortest path between them. Okay, so anytime you remove a node on an object, like this one for example, the two nodes that are closest to each other on that path are going to try to connect to each other using the shortest line possible. So watch, when I get rid of this node, these 2 points here, this one and this one, connected to each other and created a shorter helmet. Okay, so now we can go in and we can add another node. Okay, and we can take now the shape tool. Okay, and this shape tool allows us to edit these nodes. So with the shape tool selected, we can go and highlight this node. And we know that it's properly highlighted because we get a black border around it. And we can click, hold it, and drag it, and we can manipulate it however we want. Okay, now I'm going to bring it back up here. Okay, now this helmet still looks a little weird, and that's because it's missing a couple nodes. So I can go back and grab my draw tool, okay, and click right about here. Okay, and then click right about here. Go back and grab my shape tool. Okay, and I can take this one, click it and drag it out, and then click this one and drag it out. Okay, and there you go, you've got your helmet back. So basically the shape tool and the draw tool, you're going to use those together when it comes to manipulating objects, adding nodes and removing nodes. Okay, so the type tool has 3 different options. If we click and hold the type tool, you'll notice that we have the type tool, and we have the vertical type tool, and we have the type on path tool. Okay, so the regular type tool, if we select it, you'll notice that the cursor turns into a T with some crosshairs there. And anywhere we click on the mat, we'll have a blinking cursor, and that tells us that we can start typing. Okay, so I'm going to grab the type tool, I'm going to click on the mat, and I'm going to type princess. Okay, and I'm going to take this and make it a little bit bigger. And while it's highlighted, I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to click Hide. Okay, I'm just going to hide it for a minute. Next, I'm going to click on my square, and I'm going to make it the full length of the mat here, just for this demonstration. Okay, and then I'm going to go to Object and Show All. Right now, the rectangle here is in the foreground, so I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, and send it to back so that I can click on the word princess and manipulate it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these elements by drawing a box around both of them, and I'm going to go to Path and click Exclude. Okay, now look at that. I've taken the word princess and cut it out of this rectangle. Okay, now notice what's going to happen. When we cut this out, this inner part of the R and the inner part of the P are going to fall out. Okay, so it's going to look a little weird. So what we can do is we can take another rectangle here, okay, and I can make it real small. Okay, about this big should be fine. And I'm just going to place it right here. Okay, now I'm going to select the entire thing again. I'm going to go to Path, and I'm going to click Union. Okay, now look at that. I've cut this out so this middle part will no longer fall out. I can do the same thing with the R. Okay, I'll make this a little bit smaller. And it doesn't matter how long the rectangle is, because ultimately, when you use the union feature, all of this excess will be combined into what is already there. And you'll see what I mean here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight everything, or you can go to Edit, Select All, or again, you can right-click on the mat and click Select All. Then go to Path and click Union. Okay, there it is again. Okay, now what you can do with the Draw tool, we can take it one step further. We can go ahead and zoom in on this and get nice and close. Okay, I'm going to scroll down here. Now we can take our Draw tool, and you'll notice here, we've got all these points, okay, and we can take and manipulate these however we want. Now I accidentally just deleted one, but I can go to Edit, Undo. Now if I click on my Shape tool, I can edit any of these nodes. Okay, now take a look. I'm going to highlight this one and click and hold it, and I'm going to move it over. And I can go ahead and click on this one, hold it, and move it over. So I can make this as skinny or as wide as I want. I'm now editing these individual nodes. Now I can take it a step further, grab my Draw tool, and go down here. Now that it's a plus, I'll be adding another node to this path. Okay, so I'm going to click. Now I can grab the Shape tool again, and I can click this, and I can bring this down like that. Okay, now this is just to give you an example of all the different things that you can do using the Path and the Shape tool. Okay, so again, I can go here and take the Shape tool, and I can highlight this node, and I can bring it a little bit closer to the other one so that the cut is not as wide. Okay, I can do the same thing with this one. As long as it's highlighted, I can click and drag it. And there you go. Okay, so now let's take a look here at the preview. Now check that out. That's pretty cool. And that's going to make sure that the inner part of this R doesn't just drop out. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to create a new mat or a new project, and I'm not going to save it. Now the next thing I want to show you is the vertical type tool, and it's just like the horizontal type tool, except that when you type, it types vertically. So basically this is just another weapon in your arsenal. This works just like the regular type tool, except it types vertically. Okay, so I'm going to delete this. I'm going to show you the last thing here, and that is the type on path tool. Okay, now we talked about paths, and we know what a path is, so what we can do is we can take and draw a line. Okay, so let's go ahead and click here, and we're going to 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 click here, and then we're going to hit escape. Okay, so we've got a line. Now what we can do is we can take this type on path tool, and we can click on the path and just start typing. Okay, so we can type happy birthday. Okay, so you see how that works. You can actually type on any type of path. Okay, so a path could be a circle, a triangle, anything you can come up with. Okay, so I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to put a heart down on my mat here. Okay, and actually, I'm just going to get rid of this, create some more room on the mat. Okay, so we've got the heart, and that might be a little too big. Okay, so I'm going to grab the Type on Path tool, and I'm going to go ahead and click inside the heart, and I'm going to go ahead and start typing. All right, look at that. So we're basically typing on the path. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this one, and I'm just going to place a circle on my mat here, and I'm going to go ahead and grab the Type on Path tool again. I'm going to click on my circle, and I'm just going to start typing. So that's definitely a pretty cool feature and just one of the many things that you can do using the various tools in the Tools panel.